Your one click on the subscribe button makes a huge difference. Thank you for your kind support.
In the tumultuous landscape of 1976 Argentina, a disillusioned English teacher finds unexpected purpose through an unlikely friendship with a rescued penguin. The Penguin Lessons takes us on a heartwarming journey that explores themes of connection, courage, and finding meaning in unexpected places. Let me walk you through this remarkable story based on true events. The movie opens with Michell, played by Coogan, arriving in Argentina to teach at St. George's College, an elite boys' boarding school. Tom seems withdrawn and going through the motions of life, carrying invisible baggage that weighs heavily on his shoulders. The country itself is in chaos, with political tensions rising and a military coup imminent. We hear explosions in the distance as Tom makes his way to the school, a stark reminder of the volatile situation outside the sheltered walls of St. George's. Headmaster Buckle, Jonathan Price, welcomes Tom with typical British formality, explaining that the school tries to remain politically neutral despite the surrounding turmoil. Small p when it comes to politics, he emphasizes, making it clear that many wealthy families send their sons to this institution. Tom immediately understands the unspoken rule. Don't rock the boat. Don't get involved. This suits him perfectly, as he appears to prefer keeping his head down and avoiding any emotional entanglements. Tom's first days at the school are challenging. His attempts to teach English literature fall flat, and his complete lack of rugby knowledge makes coaching the second team an exercise in improvisation. The boys are disinterested, and Tom seems equally uninspired. We meet Maria, the elderly housekeeper, and her granddaughter Sofia, who works in the kitchen. Tom's interactions are polite but distant. Similarly, he meets Tapio, an enthusiastic Finnish physics teacher who tries repeatedly to befriend Tom despite the latter's reluctance. The political situation deteriorates, and after a bombing, the school closes for a week. Tom decides to visit Uruguay with Tapio inviting himself along. During this trip, we learn more about Tapio's personal heartbreak. His wife left him for his best friend, leaving him devastated. At a dance club, Tom meets Karina, and they share a brief connection. Walking along the beach the next morning, they discover the devastating aftermath of an oil spill. Several dead penguins washed ashore, their bodies covered in thick, black oil. Among the casualties, they notice one penguin still alive, struggling and covered in oil. Karina insists they save it, and somewhat reluctantly, Tom helps bring the penguin to his hotel room. Together, they clean the oil off in the bathtub, a messy, comical process filled with pecks and splashes. Just as a romantic moment begins to develop between Tom and Karina, she abruptly stops, confessing she's married and can't continue. She leaves Tom alone with the now clean penguin. The next morning, Tom attempts to release the penguin back to the ocean, but the bird refuses to leave, following him back to the hotel. When hotel staff and local authorities insist he take responsibility for the penguin, Tom reluctantly smuggles it aboard the ferry back to Argentina. At the border, he nervously declares the penguin's name as Peter to avoid paying an import fee. Back at St. George's, Tom attempts to hide the penguin while he contacts the local zoo to take it. However, the penguin makes its presence known through constant chirping and enormous messes, attracting the attention of Maria and Sofia. Sofia is immediately charmed by the penguin and suggests naming it Juan Salvador Gaviota, Jonathan Livingston Seagull in Spanish, after a book about a seagull learning to fly. They shorten it to Juan Salvador, meaning savior. Sofia teaches Tom how to properly feed the penguin, showing him that Juan Salvador responds to kindness and connection. During this interaction, we see glimpses of Sofia's political activism as she challenges Tom's passive stance on the country's political situation. When good people do nothing, I just want to fucking punch them in the face, she tells him bluntly. Despite her fiery rhetoric, a friendship begins to develop between them. Tom decides to bring Juan Salvador to his classroom, and something magical happens. The previously disinterested students become fully engaged, fascinated by the penguin. Tom cleverly uses this newfound attention to teach them about poetry, metaphors, and deeper meaning. One particularly touching moment occurs when Tom reads John Masefield's poem, Sea Fever, and connects it to the penguin's journey. When asked what the poem really means, student Diego suggests freedom, leading to a profound classroom discussion. Meanwhile, the political situation worsens. During a trip to town, Tom witnesses Sofia being forcibly taken by military authorities, presumably for her activism. When he returns to tell Maria the devastating news, she's heartbroken but not surprised. We learn that Sofia has lived with her since she was 5, after her mother died from breast cancer. Maria begins preparing letters of inquiry and joining protests of mothers looking for their disappeared loved ones. In an emotional moment, Tom reveals to Maria that he lost his daughter Catherine when she was 13, killed by a drunk driver. This explains his emotional detachment and reluctance to form connections. He also confesses that he saw Sofia being taken and did nothing to help her, a confession that Maria receives with quiet dignity. The penguin continues to thrive at the school, becoming a beloved mascot for students and staff alike. Diego, a previously bullied student, develops a special bond with Juan Salvador when Tom puts him in charge of feeding. The boy's academic performance improves dramatically, particularly in English, showing how this unexpected visitor has transformed the classroom dynamics. Eventually, Headmaster Buckle discovers Juan Salvador and confronts Tom, giving him an ultimatum. Either Tom and the penguin must go, or they both must leave. In desperation, Tom visits the local market, where he confronts a military officer he believes was involved in Sofia's abduction. In a moment of remarkable courage, Tom directly asks for Sofia's release, sharing his own story of loss and explaining why the young woman matters to him. This brave but foolish action results in Tom's arrest and beating. After his release, Tom returns to find that Buckle has reconsidered. Seeing the positive impact Juan Salvador has had on students and staff, Buckle allows both Tom and the penguin to stay. In a symbolic gesture of acceptance, the penguin is permitted to swim in the school pool, putting the penguin in the pool, as Tom later describes it metaphorically. The school year progresses, with lower fourth remove no longer finishing last in academic rankings. Diego even wins the William Wordsworth Award for Excellence in English. Just as things seem to be improving for everyone, tragedy strikes. Juan Salvador suddenly dies. Tom is devastated, burying the penguin under a tree near the rugby field. At a memorial gathering, Tom delivers a moving eulogy about friendship, connection, and the impact a small penguin had on all their lives. He speaks about how Juan Salvador might have felt initially out of place but found a way to make a difference. Tom acknowledges his own growth, saying, "Juan Salvador is gone, and I'm sad. But I'm happy that I'm sad," recognizing that allowing yourself to feel grief means you've allowed yourself to care. The film's emotional climax occurs when, during this eulogy, a car arrives at the school. From it emerges a battered but alive Sofia, returning to an overjoyed Maria. We don't learn exactly how she was released, but the timing suggests Tom's confrontation with the military officer may have played a role. The film ends with this powerful reunion, showing how connections, whether with people or penguins, can transform lives even in the darkest times. Throughout the penguin lessons, the political situation in Argentina serves as a crucial backdrop. The film doesn't shy away from depicting the reality of the dirty war period, when thousands of Argentinians were disappeared by the military government. This historical context adds weight to the personal stories we follow. When Sofia is taken, it's not just a plot device but a reflection of real historical events that affected thousands of families. The character of Maria represents the mothers and grandmothers who tirelessly sought information about their missing loved ones. Her determination to write letters, join protests, and keep Sofia's memory alive mirrors the real-life mothers of the Plaza de Mayo, who gathered in public spaces demanding information about their disappeared children. When she tells Tom, "To my friends, to my neighbors, she has already gone. They don't talk to me because they are scared to be connected with her in any way," we understand the isolation and fear that surrounded families of the disappeared. Tom's journey from detachment to engagement reflects a philosophical question the film poses. What is our responsibility to others? When we witness injustice, should we intervene or look away? Initially, Tom embodies the bystander mentality. I don't get involved. I didn't do anything because I don't do anything, he tells himself after witnessing Sofia's abduction. His growth throughout the film challenges this passive stance, suggesting that connection requires courage and action. The penguin itself becomes a powerful symbol throughout the film. Juan Salvador, meaning savior, lives up to his name by rescuing Tom from his emotional isolation just as much as Tom rescued the penguin from the oil slick. In one touching scene, Tapio observes that, at a certain strata, he is aware he owes his life to you. This mutual rescue forms the heart of the story, the idea that in saving others, we often save ourselves. The setting of St. George's College represents a microcosm of privilege and protection amid chaos. The school tries to maintain its British traditions and standards regardless of the turmoil outside its gates. Headmaster Buckle's insistence on political neutrality reflects a common response to authoritarianism, looking away to protect institutional interests. The contrast between the manicured grounds of the school and the violence in the streets highlights questions of complicity and moral responsibility. Education itself becomes a theme, with Tom's teaching methods evolving from rote instruction to meaningful engagement. His use of poetry to discuss freedom and rebellion, particularly Shelley's The Mask of Anarchy, with its line "Ye are many, they are few," suggests that literature can be a form of resistance. When student Ramiro asks if the poem is about freedom from tyranny, the political implications are unmistakable, even as Tom frames it as a historical English context. The film also explores grief and how we process loss. Tom's unresolved grief over his daughter Catherine manifests as emotional detachment. He keeps people at arm's length, using humor and sarcasm as shields. Juan Salvador, with his simple needs and unconditional presence, offers Tom a safe way back to connection. Similarly, when Juan Salvador dies, Tom embraces his grief rather than running from it, a sign of his emotional growth. The relationships between generations form another important layer. Maria and Sofia represent a loving grandmother-granddaughter bond, while Tom develops a mentoring relationship with his students, particularly Diego. When Tom visits Maria's home, he meets her extended family living together in a modest house in an area called El Bajo, the Low, showing how families support each other through difficult times. This intergenerational support contrasts with Tom's isolated existence. Visually, the film uses several recurring motifs. Water appears repeatedly: the oil-slicked ocean where Juan Salvador is found, the bathtub where he's cleaned, and ultimately the school pool where he's allowed to swim freely. Water represents both danger and freedom, contamination and cleansing. Similarly, confinement and release are visual themes, from Juan Salvador's attempted release back to the ocean to Sofia's capture and eventual return. The penultimate scene, where Tom gives his eulogy for Juan Salvador, brings together many of the film's themes. He acknowledges that the penguin was quite short, couldn't speak, smelt quite bad, and shat everywhere. But real friendship is about being able to see beyond all that superficial stuff. This moment of humor and pathos captures the essence of connection, seeing past the exterior to recognize value in others. His metaphor about putting the penguin in the pool speaks to taking risks and allowing for possibility. Tom has learned that sometimes rules need to be broken, conventions challenged, and comfort zones abandoned for something meaningful to occur. This growth from rigid self-protection to openness marks the true journey of the film. The final reunion between Sofia and Maria serves as the emotional resolution. Without explicitly stating it, the film suggests that Tom's confrontation with the military officer, his decision to finally get involved, may have contributed to Sofia's release. Whether or not this is true, the important thing is that Tom has changed. He's no longer the man who looks away. He's learned from Juan Salvador to dive into life's messy, complicated waters. The Penguin Lessons ultimately reminds us that the most profound teachers often come in unexpected forms. For Tom Michell, a waterlogged penguin that refused to return to the ocean became the catalyst for rediscovering his own humanity. Through Juan Salvador, Tom learned to connect with his students, stand up against injustice, and open himself to both joy and pain again. The film suggests that even in dark political times, Small acts of compassion and courage matter. Tom's decision to save one penguin didn't change the political landscape of Argentina, but it changed him and the community around him. Similarly, his eventual confrontation with authorities might not have toppled a regime, but it represented a personal moral reckoning that had ripple effects. As viewers, we're left with the message that meaningful connections, whether with people or penguins, require vulnerability, courage, and sometimes breaking the rules. We're reminded that grief, properly acknowledged, can lead to growth rather than paralysis. And perhaps most importantly, we see that even in the darkest times, there are still possibilities for joy, purpose, and unexpected friendships, sometimes with those who don't even speak our language. In closing, The Penguin Lessons isn't just about a man and his penguin. It's about finding the courage to engage with life again after loss, standing up for what's right even when it's dangerous, and recognizing that sometimes the most profound lessons come from the most unlikely teachers. In the words of Tom's eulogy, sometimes you have to put the penguin in the pool, take a chance on connection, even when it seems ridiculous or risky, because in doing so, you might just save yourself.